Hello everyone, welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about solving quadratics. What does the plan look like for today? We're going to do this review section, 3 examples, and 1 you try. So let's get started. How do you solve a quadratic? So there's 3 different ways to solve a quadratic. The first is by factoring, the second is by completing the square, and the third is by using the quadratic formula. So whenever you have a quadratic, always try to factor. That's going to be your go-to. This is the easiest and fastest way to get the answer. So if factoring isn't working out, then you could either complete the square or try the quadratic formula. And for completing the square, this is the only bit of information you'll need. We'll go more in depth in this when we do the example for completing the square. And then the quadratic formula, you just plug in the a, b, and c values. Let's go ahead and start with the first example. So we're going to try to solve by factoring. X squared plus 3x minus 4 is equal to 0. So we can do the big X method. And then we have x on each side. And we need to find 2 numbers when multiplied will give you -4 and when added will give you 3. So that would be 4 and -1. So then we get x plus 4 times x minus 1 is equal to 0. And we equal each individual equation to 0, which will give us x is equal to -4 and x is equal to 1. Here we have our second example where we're going to try to solve by completing the square of x squared plus 4x plus 3 is equal to 0. So here I wrote the standard form so you can easily see what a, b, and c are equal to. So let's start by subtracting 3 to both sides. We're going to have x squared plus 4x is equal to -3. So now we have to add a number to both sides in order to get a perfect square trinomial on the left side. So remember, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. So let's find our number. So the way we do that is we're going to use this formula that I gave you in the beginning. So b is equal to 4, and then we're going to put that over 2 squared is equal to 2 squared. Now we're going to take this number and place it in our box. And now there's 2 different ways to solve this. You can either do the big X method, or you can do this shortcut that I'm going to show you right now. So please pay attention. So here we're going to do parentheses is equal to -3. Plus 4, and we're going to take this x, place it here, this sign, which is positive. We're going to take this 2, put it here, and the squared is going to go outside the parentheses. So now we have x plus 2 squared is equal to 1. So now we have to solve for x. So we have to do the square root. Take the square root of both sides. X plus 2 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 1. Remember, when you take the square root of something, always put plus or minus. So now we subtract 2. X is equal to -2 plus or minus the square root of 1 is 1. So we have x is equal to -2 plus 1, and x is equal to -2 minus 1. We get, as our final answers, x is equal to -1 and x is equal to -3. Let's go on to example number 3. So we're going to try to solve by using the quadratic formula for x squared minus 4x minus 13 is equal to 0. So here I wrote down the quadratic formula. I also wrote down the standard form so you can easily identify a, b, and c. So go ahead and identify those, and you should have gotten a is equal to 1, b is equal to -4, and c is equal to -13. So now let's plug those into our quadratic formula. So we get x is equal to -4 plus or minus the square root of -4 squared minus 4 times 1 times -13 over 2 times 1. So we get x is equal to +4 plus or minus the square root of 16. -13 times 1 is -13 times -4. We get +52 over 2. So we get x is equal to 4 plus or minus the square root of 68 over 2. So we have x is equal to 4 plus or minus, we simplify square root of 68, which gives us 2 square root of 17 over 2. So now last step is to simplify. So x is equal to 4 divided by 2 is 2, plus or minus 2 over 2 is 1. So we're just left with the square root of 17. So this is our answer. Last but not least, here's a you try. So you're going to try this on your own, and you're going to try to solve for 2x squared minus 5x plus 7 is equal to 0. And I want you to think about the 3 different types of methods we talked about in lesson today: factoring, completing the square, and the quadratic formula. And I want you to tell me, what method do you think is the most efficient to solve this quadratic? And remember, if you're not so sure about your final answer, you can always try to plug it back in for x, and it should give you 0, and you should be okay. And that's all for today. Thank you so much for being here.